This is about the optional assignment that we mentioned last week. We will replace one quiz, as I said last time. You have to do a summary of the topic that you presented for class. This is if you want, it's in the handout, okay? A summary of the topic that you presented for class, okay? This is optional, so if you don't want to do it because you're too busy or it's okay for you, then it's fine, okay? The only thing is that it shouldn't be more than 10 pages, okay, both sides, so not too long. Do not put more than 10 figures, okay? I don't want pages and pages of lots of figures. And no more than 10 references. For anatomy and physiology, maybe 2 references is more than enough. As long as you just take a textbook, that would be fine. Most of the references probably will be just the figures taken from here or there. You don't really need to check for too many sources. Basically, you have to write something, to write text, okay? So it's not just to put a lot of figures. Like for example, if you're anatomy, to put 1 figure and that's it. That's not the point, okay? The point is that you can show that you have reviewed the topic and that you at least understand the basics, okay? If it's anatomy, about anatomy, if it's physiology, about physiology. It doesn't have to be too deep or too extensive, okay? Remember, this is based on the presentation that you did for class. So you must have reviewed a lot from these. You summarized to do the presentation, so the summary is okay. And this will replace one of your quizzes, okay? So if you got a very low grade in one of your quizzes, you can do the assignment, okay? The warning is no plagiarism. This is in terms of the text, okay? Obviously not really the figures. I'm not expecting you to draw the figures, but the text, the writing, okay? The explanation of the physiology or the description of the anatomy. Deadline, I think I said 9 a.m., right? Last time? Was it 9 a.m.? Tuesday 18th, 9 a.m. Okay? So send it by this time to my address. All of you must have my address in your inbox because I've sent like 2 messages I think already. So check. This is my email address. And check also the same day that you receive a confirmation email, okay? So I will check in the morning my email if any of you send me something, your summary, and I will send a confirmation, just an email saying I received your summary. So if you don't receive an email by noon, meaning 12, the same day, please send it again, okay? Because that means that I haven't received your work. Right on time. This is an optional assignment. You were absent last week. So I decided that if you are worried that maybe some of your scores for the quizzes is too low, you have the option of doing an optional assignment. This is not compulsory, so you don't have to do it if you don't want or if you don't have time. The optional assignment will replace one of the quizzes. Okay, so we have 4 quizzes. One is eliminated, the lowest score, and the other one you can replace it with this assignment, this optional assignment, if you want. The assignment is just to write a summary of the topic that you presented. Okay, so in your case you did anatomy of the cardiovascular system. If you want to do the optional assignment, you can do a summary of this. No more than 10 pages, no more than 10 figures, no more than 10 references. Okay, references, the sources. It has to be text, okay? So it's not just to put a figure of the heart and saying, okay, this is the anatomy of the heart. That's not the point, okay? The point is that you do a better job than what you feel was your presentation in order to get an opportunity to have a higher score in one of the quizzes, okay? The point is also to show that you actually review a topic and that you understand the physiology or the anatomy of the topic. The deadline is 9 a.m. Next Tuesday, 18th, okay? Send it to my address and you should receive a confirmation by noon of the same day. If you don't, resend it or check with me because I didn't receive it, okay? That's it all for all. So put everything away. We have the last quiz today. Yes. But this is the last one. Okay? Put everything away, please. Okay, as usual, you have 15 minutes unless you finish much quicker. Please start now. I gave you the handouts for today. Hopefully we can finish today. And the list of review questions. Okay, you will see there are a list of questions for each of the other one. For each of the classes, each of the sessions. Okay, so the idea is not that the exact same questions will come for the final exam, but this is a way of helping you to study. Okay, so if the question says describe the system, blah blah, or what is the main functions, describe them, then while you are answering these questions, you will be basically studying what you need to know for the final exam. So the final exam is usually multiple answers. So it's like pick A, B, C, or D, true or false. And maybe one or two only to actually write, like describe something, and then you will have to write a lot, okay? Because we have to cover so many systems and there's so much to memorize. I cannot ask you to, like the mini quizzes, to ask you a lot of questions for you to actually write a lot and describe a lot of things. So I would say that in a sense, maybe it's easier in the final exam. Even if you don't know the answer, you can just lock A, B, C, okay, this one, true or false, maybe okay, false, maybe true, maybe whatever. So answer as much as possible, okay? So even if you don't know, try to look inside your brain and see if you can remember something. So the questions are a guidance, okay, for you to understand this part of the class. To focus on this part, okay? What is the anatomy and describe, or what is the main function? You can actually describe. Because there is a couple of questions to write, so I would suggest that you not only read it and say, okay, it's this, and this, but you write it down, okay? That's also as a practice, because you're here because you wanted to learn a little more English or medical terms. So that will also help you writing down, okay? It's a long list, so I hope that you have been reviewing by now and it doesn't take you from here to 2 weeks to answer all the questions. Yes.
So there will be multiple choice and structural.
Yes. Yes. So the idea is for you to have, I can make many questions. You have 80 minutes. So to make many questions, to cover the topics, but that you can answer quickly. Okay, so some questions are multiple options, so you have to pick one. Others could be true or false, or maybe a figure, so you have to, okay, this is the name of the organ, this is the name of the organ, and so on. Nothing complicated, okay? It's not like I'm gonna ask you all the branches of the aorta. Or what are the muscles or the name of the bones. It's just the main organs, really. The very basic things that you should know, okay? Questions also from your presentations. So if you cover anatomy or physiology, I expect that you understand maybe more from that section or that you don't forget about that topic, okay? You will have some questions related to your own topic, so you can also pick from there. To make it easy. Okay, exam is going to be here. Remember, next week we don't have class. Monday is holiday, and the class is going to be here. You can bring electronic dictionary if you want to look for words. But I would rather not have you using your smartphones because I'm not sure if you're looking for the answers instead of looking for the words. So if you don't have electronic dictionaries, I suggest that you bring a list of the words that are more difficult for you. Okay, like terminology, medical terminologies that maybe are difficult to write. The grading is not based on proper English or the exact writing or the correct word. As long as it's close enough to give an idea that you actually know what you are being asked, is good enough. Okay, so don't worry too much about that part. But if you need a list of words that can help you out because you don't have electronic dictionary, then you can bring it. Okay, but I will check it during the exam. No books will be allowed, no laptops, and so on. If you want, because that is going to be the last class, right? We will have 80 minutes. If you finish before the 80 minutes, you can leave the room and just go. If you want to know your score or your final score, you can come see me during the feedback day or even before that day. Okay, I'll tell you the day of the exam. Any questions so far?
What
No?
percentage of multiple choice and TF?
I don't know yet. I haven't finished doing the final exam. How much? Usually I don't give too much for the open
Right.
questions because it takes too much of your time to write. But at least you can expect maybe 2 or 3 questions, okay? What I did last year was to give you, maybe, I don't remember, I think I gave like 5 questions and you can pick the ones that you wanted. So that if you don't remember about digestive system, but you remember about respiratory because you did respiratory, then you can probably answer better that question. So that's what I usually like to do, give you more questions and then you can pick up maybe 2 or 3 to complete your score. Okay. The point is for you to know something, not to fail the course. To at least show that you learn the basic, that you're going home, that you ended the semester remembering something about the human body and how it works. Okay? Any questions? No? So today we're going to do the last system. I was hesitating actually to do, because it's a lot about reproductive system. There's a lot that we can do and we can talk about reproductive system. Probably only anatomy could be one class. There's a lot to do. So we will do just the basics of reproductive system, okay? What would be the main function of this system? This is a very basic question. And it is very straightforward just from the name, right? What would be the purpose of having a reproductive system? Anyone?
To reproduce.
Yes, right. But we're different, right? Men and women, we have different reproductive systems. But together, the purpose is to reproduce, to produce offspring, to produce next generation, right? Please check with the handouts because I think the printing came after I did some changes, or I included or they did or made some modifications to the presentation. Basically, our reproductive functions are slightly different from males and females. For male reproductive functions, basically it's formation of sperm, okay, which is called spermatogenesis, the performance of the male sexual act, and to regulate the reproductive functions by hormones, using different hormones, right? And the females, even though it only has 2 points, but it's actually, I would say, much more complicated than the reproductive functions from men. It's basically preparation of the body for conception and for pregnancy, right? And if the woman gets pregnant, the period of pregnancy in itself, that is also covered by the reproductive functions. So basically we have the primary sex organs, which are called the gonads, okay? In the men, it would be the testes, and in women, this would be the ovaries, okay? The gonads will produce the sex cells, which are called gametes, Okay? In the case of men, the male gametes are the sperm. And in the case of women, these sex cells are the ova or the eggs, most commonly called the eggs. Okay? And the gonads, the testes, and the ovaries will secrete sex hormones. In the case of men, androgens, mostly testosterone, and women's, it will secrete estrogens and progesterone. Okay? And we also have some accessory reproductive organs. Okay? What do you think would be the accessory reproductive organs? As the name says, it will help the primary sex organs. Okay? So in the case of men, it will help deliver the sperm outside their body or inside the female's tract. In the case of women, it will transport, it will nurture, or it will serve the needs for the reproductive functions. Generally speaking, all the accessory reproductive organs could be classified as ducts, glands, or external genitalia. Okay, so we will see what is which of these groups. Okay, so this is the very overall idea. We have the primary sex organs, the gonads. We have the accessory reproductive organs, ducts, glands, and external genitalia. Okay? And we mentioned they also produce sex hormones. So these sex hormones will have roles in development and function of the organs, the reproductive organs. And they also are involved in the sexual behavior and the sexual drive. That is why when we start adolescence and we start increasing of sexual hormones, teenagers or young people will start to have strong sexual drives. They're also involved in growth and development of other organs and tissues, particularly the secondary sexual characteristics. Okay? So here we have a sagittal view of the male reproductive system. Probably you can identify many of its parts. We have here the testes, okay, epididymis. This is the primary, right, the gonads. Then we have the ducts, the epididymis, the ductus deferens or vas deferens, okay, goes here, continues to the ejaculatory duct, here, and it will merge with the urethra. Remember the urethra from the urinary system, right? It will merge with the urethra, it will come here and with the urethra and the different parts of urethra. We'll see a little more details on each of these, okay? I just want to identify all the organs in this picture. And we also have the accessory glands that will also serve the purpose of reproductive functions. So we have the seminal vesicles here. We have the prostate here in the middle. We have two seminal vesicles, okay, on each side, left and right, but we only have one prostate, okay? And we have a pair also of vulvourethral glands. So these are part of the accessory glands, the duct system, the testes, and we also have the external genitalia, okay, what we can see from the outside, right? We can see the scrotum here. This is the sac of the scrotum and the penis. Okay, so those two are the external genitalia. The testes or the male gonads will produce the sperm. Okay, so the testes have two functions. Exocrine, remember, that secretes to the outside. So in this case, produces sperm. And it has also an endocrine function. So they will secrete the substance to the blood. This is a testosterone. Okay. The testes, as you have seen from the picture, they lie within the scrotum. They are inside the scrotum sac. And the sperm are delivered to the exterior through the duct system. Okay, so this is the duct system. So they will go through the epididymis the ductus deferens or the vas deferens. Then you will reach the ejaculatory duct. The ejaculatory duct merges with the urethra and then goes through the urethra to the outside. Okay. The accessory glands, we mentioned them: seminal glands, prostate or prostate gland, and the bulbourethral glands. They will empty their secretions into the duct system, into the ducts during ejaculation. This is a closer look into the testes. In average, approximately, so it may vary, but in general, it may have 4 centimeters long, 2.5 wide. Okay. The covering of the testis is covered by on the outside a tunica albuginea, which is a capsule. It's a connective tissue. It's this whitish covering or layer on the outside. This is a tunica albuginea. From this capsule, there are some extensions that are called septa or septum. One septum, several septa. This septum divides the testes into different lobes. Okay, one of these is a lobe. This is a lobe. Okay, and these are the seminiferous tubules within the lobes in the testes. Each of these lobes contains from 1 to 4 seminiferous tubules. These, the yellow ones, here. And they are very long structures, but are very tightly coiled. Okay. Here is where the sperm is produced, and each lobe will empty the sperm into the retitestis. So this is the seminiferous tubules. They produce the sperm and they empty into here the retitestis. Okay. So this is just a prolongation or a continuum of the tubules, okay? But once they merge here, it's called the retitestis, okay? The sperm will travel through these retitestis into the epididymis. This part here is epididymis, okay? So this is also a network of ducts. And surrounding the seminiferous tubules, there are some special cells called interstitial cells. And these are cells that produce androgens, such as testosterone. So testosterone will be produced by different cells from the ones that are producing sperm. Okay? So we can use the same figure now to talk about the epididymis. Okay? Now, focus on this part. This is the epididymis. It has a coma shape or a cup shape, and it's highly coiled. It could be maybe like around 6 meters, but it's tightly coiled. And it's found on the posterior side of the testes. It's a temporary place where the immature sperm will be stored. Okay? It could stay there for around 20 days. So it's producing the seminiferous tubules. It will go to the retitestis and then will be stored here in the epididymis. How is the sperm going to move from here to the outside? You remember when we were studying digestive system, how the food moves through the tract, through peristaltism? That is basically because the tubes has muscle cells, and they will contract, and these forces it to move forward. Same is here, the contraction of the muscles in the epididymis walls, in the walls of the epididymis, during ejaculation will push the sperm to the vas deferens, to the next connection. Okay? Is it too cold? You want me to
I'm okay.
raise English? How about the rest of you? Is it okay? Okay, then. Thank you. Okay. Probably you have seen many of these figures already in high school, I'm guessing. Did you study this in high school? No. Suzuki-san? High school? No,
Not so detailed.
not so much detail. Okay. How about high school?
Oh man, that's it.
Yes. Yes? No, not so much.
I did.
You did. Okay, so it's a review then. Then the next part, remember this is the testis, epididymis, and it continues here, the cut. This is the vas deferens. Okay, it could be vas deferens or ductus deferens, either way. Okay, the vas deferens will go here, will move upward, frontward, and it goes through the inguinal canal here, goes up from, this is the bladder, remember from last week, the bladder, and comes here, extends, and here ends in the ejaculatory duct. This is the vas deferens, okay? The main function is to propel, to move the live sperm from the epididymis and the ejaculatory tract into the urethra, okay? And notice that it passes through the inguinal canal over the bladder. Here is a structure called the spermatic cord, which contains not only the ductus deferens but also blood vessels and some nerves. Okay, they are called the spermatic cord. The vas deferens will move the sperm by peristalsis, again contraction of the muscles that conform the walls, and it empties in the ejaculatory duct, which passes through the prostate to merge with the urethra. Okay. Remember what was this organ? Prostate. Okay. Gentlemen, remember prostate. And they go through the prostate. Okay. Have you heard of the one way of birth control or planning method is vasectomy? Have you heard the word vasectomy?
Ectomy means
Yes.
cut.
Yes. And vasectomy is from the vas deferens. Vasectomy is also called male sterilization. So it's a way that for men to undergo surgery, but it's minor surgery, so that they will not produce sperm into their semen. So family planning, a way of family planning. Okay, and what they do is, well, there are different ways, but basically they make some incisions in the vas deferens. Okay, so if this is the vas deferens, they make a cut, they take a part, they close it to ends, and that will stop the sperms to continue their way. Okay, so even though the man continues to produce the sperm will not get outside, and so the possibility of getting pregnant another person are very low. It's not 100% effective. It may have some unintended risk, but if it's not done properly, it may not be 100% effective. Okay.
Can it be reconnected?
It's very difficult.
So where will the sperm go?
It just reabsorbs.
Oh.
Yes. This is just to prevent the transportation of sperm. It's called male sterilization, as I mentioned. It's a cut, block, or seal. There are different types of vasectomy, but the point is that you interfere the progress of the sperm from where it's produced and stored to the outside. Okay. Prevents the sperm from reaching seminal fluid or the semen, and therefore to fertilize an egg in women. But remember that even though this is family planning, this person will be sterile, will not get pregnant another person. It does not protect for sexually transmitted infections. Okay, So even if you are, or the person gets a vasectomy, they are still at risk of STIs. Another part of the duct system, the last part is the urethra. Okay, we mentioned the urethra when we studied the urinary system, right? It extends from the base of the urinary bladder. This is the bladder, extends from here. This is the urethra. From the urinary bladder to the tip of the penis. Okay, and it carries both urine and sperm. Okay. The sperm enters from, we mentioned this before, from the ejaculatory duct here, okay? And there are 3 different regions that we can identify in the urethra. If you notice, it will go through the prostate. So this region is called prostatic urethra or urethra prostatic. Then there is a small part between the prostatic and this one, the penile urethra, which is the membranous urethra, okay, membranous. And once it goes all the length from the penis, it's called the penile urethra or spongy urethra. Few things about accessory glands. We mentioned accessory glands. Remember the seminal vesicle, the prostate gland, only one, and the bulbourethral gland. They are located at the base of the bladder. They produce a thick yellowish secretion that will be most of the content of the semen. They include fructose, which is a type of sugar, vitamin C, some prostaglandins, and other substances. All of these that will nourish and will activate the sperm. Okay. Let's see. For example, the prostate gland is only one gland, as I mentioned. It has the shape of a donut, and it circles or it surrounds the upper part of the urethra, right below the bladder. Okay, and it secretes a milky fluid. It will help. This fluid will help to activate the sperm, and it will enter the urethra through several small ducts. Actually, the prostate is accessible because it's right before or in the before the rectum. So with a digital examination, the doctor may palpate, may touch, and may have an idea of the size and the surface of the prostate. This is especially important for older men because the prostate may have maybe inflamed or maybe grow. And if the prostate starts to enlarge, it may contract, squeeze the urethra, okay? And this will make the person having problems urinating, a lot of pain also. And of course, once you are elderly, the risk for prostate cancer also increases. Okay, so this is another easy way or accessible way to rule out. What about the bulbourethral glands? They are very small size glands, inferior to the prostate, maybe the size of a pea. They produce a thick and a clear mucus. Okay. And what is the purpose of this mucus? Is to cleanse the urethra. Remember that urethra will be also the path for urine. Okay. But we need to cleanse it so that the sperm can go along without problems. So it will cleanse the urethra of acidic urine and will serve also as a lubricant during sexual intercourse. And they are secreted into the penile urethra. Okay, we have to run a little bit. What about the semen? Milky, white, somewhat sticky texture. The semen is actually a mixture of the sperm and the secretions from all these accessory glands. And even though when you ejaculate, the amount of semen is small, maybe 1 teaspoon, between 2 and 5 milliliters, actually it contains millions of sperm per milliliters. Okay, so even one drop contains millions of sperms. The advantages of having accessory glands secretion is that the fructose produced by the seminal vesicles will provide energy for the sperms that they can move. The alkalinity of the semen also will help neutralize the environment of the vagina, which is an acidic environment. The semen also has some substances that inhibits the multiplication of bacteria. And some substances, some elements in the semen will promote the motility of the sperm. Remember that the sperm moves, okay? A few words about external genitalia. Remember the scrotum. This is skin, a sac of skin that contains the testis, the epididymis. It has the purpose of maintaining the testis at a lower temperature of our body so that the sperm can survive, okay? This is to protect the viability of the sperm. The purpose of the penis to deliver the sperm into the female reproductive tract. There are 3 different regions for the penis: the shaft, which is most of the region, the shaft, the glans at the end, which is the enlarged tip, and the foreskin of the prepuce, which is the skin around the end or around the glans. And many times the prepuce is what is removed through circumcision. This is a little more detail of the penis. The penis is actually formed by these 3 erectile tissue bodies, okay? It's one corpus spongiosum. This is transversal cut. If this is the urethra, this is a corpus spongiosum around the urethra, and there are 2 corpus cavernosa. The erectile tissue is actually connective tissue, and it's a spongy network and smooth muscles with some vascular spaces. And during sexual intercourse and erection, this tissue will fill with blood, causing the penis to enlarge and to become rigid, facilitating the transportation and of the sperm into the female reproductive tract. So what is spermatogenesis? Remember, genesis is origin, okay? So spermatogenesis refers to all these events that will produce a sperm, okay? In the seminiferous tubules of the testes, remember this. It will begin at puberty. In average, this could be around 13, and it will continue throughout life, okay? You remember maybe from your biology class, in humans, all our cell bodies have 2 sets of chromosomes, right? One from your mom, one from your dad, correct? And this is said to be diploid, and it's shown like 2N, okay? We have 23 chromosomes, with 23 pairs of chromosomes, right? From mom and from dad. So in total we have 46. But when the gonads produce the gametes, they only produce 23, they only have 23 chromosomes. And when they only have half, they are called haploids, and they are using this symbol. Why do they have only half? Because the sperm will have to combine with the egg, right? And then we will have the complete 46, okay? Remember one of the first classes when you have to review cell division and mitosis process and so on. So gamete formation is by meiosis. This is another type of cell division. In here, the number of the chromosomes is actually halved. So it's not the same as mitosis, which is complete duplication, but here it's half. So instead of being 46 or 2N, it will end up in N or haploids. You can read later. These generally meiosis have these 2 nuclear divisions, so we will call them meiosis 1 and 2. Okay. And this is schematics of the spermatogenesis. What you need to know here, where is the sperm produced, remember? Check your slides. First. Yes?
In testes.
Yes, in the testes. But which part of the testes?
Seminiferous
Yes.
tubule.
Correct, seminiferous tubulus. So, in the seminiferous tubulus, what you have is these stem cells that will produce the sperm. Okay, the stem cells that will produce the sperm are called spermatogonium. Okay, and these are located in the outer part of the seminiferous tubulus. All this process is called spermatogenesis. In the peripheria, what you have is a stem cell or the spermatogonium. And these stem cells, they will divide, they will divide, and one of the daughter cells will continue to produce other stem cells, okay? But the second daughter cell will actually continue the path to mature into a sperm, okay? So they will go from stem cell to spermatogonium to the primary spermatocyte, and then to the spermatids, and then to the sperms. Okay? You can read with more details here once you wake up at home. And check also these figures, okay? How it goes from the stem cell, they go through mitosis to the daughter cell type A and type B. Type A will continue to be stem cell. Type B will move forward to create the sperms. And they will continue, they will enter meiosis 1, meiosis 2, until they complete the sperms. Okay, during puberty, if you remember, the anterior pituitary gland will secrete FSH, or follicle stimulating hormone. This hormone will modify the division of the spermatogonia. Okay, one cell produce is a stem cell. One will be this daughter cell that we mentioned that will continue to be stem cell, and the other one will become the primary spermatocyte. This is the one who will continue to be the sperms. The sperms. So the primary spermatocyte will continue with meiosis. The spermatids are produced, and the late stage of the spermatogenesis is called spermiogenesis. Okay, and this is where the spermatids actually turn into what we know of the sperm, where they have the head, the body, and the tail. Okay. Head, midface, and tail. The spermatogenesis in general, it can take between 62 and 72 days. Okay. A little graph of regulation of the testicular function. We mentioned the release of hormones. So the hypothalamus will release GnRH, or gonadotropin releasing hormones. FSH and LH. They will stimulate, FSH will enhance the spermatogenesis, whereas LH will stimulate the production of testosterone. Okay? Testosterone targets all accessory organs also, and if there is no testosterone, if for any reason the person cannot produce testosterone, it will cause also for the organs to atrophy, okay, or to not to develop. Testosterone is also the basis of libido in both males and females. Okay, females also produce small amounts of testosterone. And it stimulates the development of reproductive organs and also responsible for secondary sex characteristics. Secondary sex characteristics are, for example, the deep voice that men start developing once they hit puberty, the body hair, the thickening of the skin, changes in bones, and so on. Okay? Here, is it okay? Okay. So let's move now to female reproductive system. This is a general figure of reproductive system. If you notice here, we have, this is the ovary, okay, fallopian tubes, this is the uterus, and this is the vagina, okay? The reproductive role of females is rather more complex than the males. For females, they not only have to produce the eggs, but also in case of fertilization, they will have to nurture and protect the developing fetus or the embryo, which results after 9 months in a baby. So similar to the male reproductive system, here we have the ovaries. They are the primary reproductive organs. They also have these two functions, exocrine and endocrine. Exocrine, they will produce the female gametes or the ova. Endocrines, they will secrete female sex hormones, okay, estrogens and progesterones. Here we also have accessory ducts similar to the male reproductive system. In this case, they are the uterine tubes or the fallopian tubes, either way you can call them. The uterus and the vagina, okay? And as external genitalia, we have different sex organs. We are going to see them in the next slides. So first, how many ovaries we have? 2, okay? Left and right. We have a pair of ovaries on each side of the uterus, and they are in place, held in place by some ligaments. Okay, the name of the ligaments is not relevant to the course. These are the ovaries. This is the ovary. Okay, and notice this is not a pathway. This is a ligament. Okay. What happens in the ovary? So the ovary actually. This is a view of the ovary, and this is just for educational purposes to see how is going to be the cycle of the follicles until ovulation, and then the corpus luteum and what will happen next. Embedded in the cortex of the ovary, we have the ovarian follicles. Okay, these are like these structures like this one. Okay, follicles. And each of the follicles consists of an egg, an immature egg that is called oocyte. The cells around the oocytes are called the follicle cells. And when women hit puberty, FSH, similar to male, FSH will stimulate the maturation of the follicles, okay? During which these follicles starts enlarging, and follicular cells will proliferate, and a fluid will fill the cavity. If you notice here, there's this cavity. So this is how it starts to mature. So the primary follicle consists of this immature oocyte. If you follow the drawing, you will notice that it starts maturing, then the cavity is filled with liquid, it starts to mature. This is the graphia follicle, it starts to mature. And the oocyte starts to mature, and then happens ovulation. What is ovulation? Is when the egg is mature and the follicle ruptures. Okay? It occurs usually when we talk about the cycle, we tend to say it's 28 days, but in reality it could be longer, it could be shorter. Okay? Educational purposes, we usually say 28 days. the rupture of the follicle is transformed into a corpus luteum. Okay, so if this is the follicle, it ruptures, releases the oocyte, the mature oocyte, and what is left turns into what is called corpus luteum. Okay, until it degenerates, it's reabsorbed. Similar to men, in women we also have a duct system, which is the system that is going to conduct the ova or the egg. Okay, let's start first with the uterine, the fallopian tubes, these ones. Okay, they're about 10 centimeters long, and they will receive this oocyte. Okay, once it's ovulation, the oocyte is released, and the oocyte will travel this way through the fallopian tube. And it provides a site place for fertilization. So, most cases, fertilization, when the sperm will reach the ova, it's going to take place here, okay, in the fallopian tubes. The fallopian tubes is attached to the uterus, okay? This is continuous with the uterus, but does not physically attach to the ovary, okay? It's supported by ligaments, but here has some projections called fimbria. It's like finger projections. At the distal end of the tubes, they have finger-like projections called fimbria, and they will receive the oocyte. Okay, the beating cilia of the fimbria will create some current, some flow that will carry the oocyte into the uterine tube. Okay, not all the time will happen. If that oocyte misses and does not go into the tube, it will be reabsorbed in the peritoneal cavity of the abdomen. The oocyte is carried towards the uterus by peristalsis. Again, peristalsis and the ciliary action. What is the uterus? This is a very important organ because when women are pregnant, it will be the place where the baby will be developing, right? But basically, the uterus is hollow. It has some empty, and it's very thick wall in the anterior pelvis. It's suspended by some ligaments. We are not going to study what's the name of the ligaments, and we can identify 3 different regions in the uterus. Okay, we have the fundus, which is this one, fundus. We have the body, which is most of the organ, and we have the cervix, okay, which protrudes into the vagina. Okay, so you have the body, the main portion, the fundus, the upper part, where the uterine tubes enter, and the cervix, which protrudes into the vagina. Functions of the uterus we have mentioned, and you can imagine maybe, to receive the fertilized egg. Well, we say fertilized egg is the egg when the sperm has reached the egg, okay? It will retain the fertilized egg. Not necessarily a fertilized egg can implant into the uterus, but it will retain and also will nourish the fertilized egg once it's implanted there. The walls of the uterus are actually composed of 3 different layers. Okay, one is the endometrium, which is the inner layer. And this is the layer that allows the implantation of the fertilized egg. Okay, and this is the layer that is released when there's no pregnancy, and that period of time is called menstruation or menses. Okay, so this is going to detach. In the middle, we have the myometrium, which is a middle layer made of smooth muscle. And it has a role during delivery, okay, because it will contract and will push the baby towards the birth canal. And we also have the serous layer, or the most outer visceral layer. Vagina will extend from the cervix to the exterior of the body. It's behind the bladder and in front of the rectum. Serves as the birth canal. It will receive the penis during sexual intercourse. And it has a structure called a hymen, which is a tissue that partially closes the vagina until it's ruptured with intercourse. Major external genitalia, the mons pubis, this part, which is a fatty area overlying the symphysis, and it's covered with pubic hair after puberty. We have labia, which are skin folds, major and minor labia. Okay. An area called vestibule, which is enclosed by the labia majora, and it contains the opening of the urethra and the greater vestibular glands that are the ones that produce the mucus. In the picture, they're not. There's no. They didn't put the greater vestibular glands, but are these two like red dotted points here? These are the vestibular glands. Okay. The clitoris, which is an homologous to the penis, also has erectile tissue, and it's hooded by a structure that's similar to the prepuce in male. And its exposed portion is called the glans. The greater vestibular glands, which I mentioned you, are these 2 points here. They are very small size and they are flanking the vagina. They are similar to the bulbourethral glands in males. And the purpose is to keep moist and lubricated the vagina, the area. Okay, we are running really out of time, so we will finish with these. Oogenesis, similar to spermatogenesis. This is the production of oocytes or ova. The total supply of eggs are present at birth. Okay, the ability to release the eggs will begin at puberty with ovulation, and the reproductive ability will end at menopause. The oocytes are mature in the developing ovarian follicles. Okay. Probably you can follow the figure here with the next explanations. But similarly, we will move from the stem cells from the oogonium, or which are the stem cells or the parent cells that will produce the ova or the eggs. Okay. The oogonia is the stem cells. They will go under mitosis to produce the primary oocytes. These will be the primary oocytes that are surrounded by cells that will form the primary follicles. Okay. Once we hit puberty and we start having production or stimulation from FSH. FSH hormone will cause these primary follicles to mature and start meiosis. Okay, here the primary oocytes will start meiosis. Similar to spermatogenesis, we will produce 2 cells, but in this case, this cell will not produce any ova. Okay, this is called a polar body, okay? But the other cell, the secondary oocyte, actually, if it's fertilized with the sperm, then it will continue maturing and will continue with the second phase of the meiosis, okay? Or complete the meiosis in any case. Okay. This is a menstrual cycle. You have a vague idea probably of what is the menstrual cycle. These are changes of the endometrium. Remember the 3 layers of the uterus, right? So these are very cyclic changes of the endometrium, and they are regulated by production of estrogen and progesterone. When we hit puberty, the ovaries will start synthesizing estrogen. in response to stimulation from FSH. And the estrogens are responsible for development of secondary sexual characteristics, which in women is also, for example, breast increase, breast development, pubic hair, deposition of fat, mainly in the hips and also in mammary glands. But the ovaries also secrete progesterone, and these triggers the changes in the uterine during the menstrual cycle. Okay. These are usually the figures that we will see during the menstrual cycle when we want to illustrate the menstrual cycle. This is how it's going to change the endometrium. Okay. The ovarian cycle, how the follicles are going to mature. The fluctuation or the variation of estrogens and progesterones in blood, and also the release of LH, luteinizing hormone, and FSH. So in general, we have different stages during the menstrual cycle. The first few days, maybe from 1 to 5, is the menstrual phase, which is actually the when the uterus detaches or sheds parts of the endometrium. Okay. Then we have the proliferative phase, which this detached because there was no pregnancy, right? But again, the circle continues, and the uterus has to prepare for another possibility next month if there is pregnancy. So it starts to the proliferative phase. The endometrium rebuilds itself. And the final phase from maybe around 15 to 28 is the secretory phase, where the endometrium will prepare for implantation in case there is fertilization of the ova. Okay, so just for your reference, please read the menstrual cycle, but because we really didn't have much time to go into detail, I will not include this last part in the exam, okay? But the menstrual cycle starts with FSH, as we mentioned. It will stimulate the maturation of the follicle cells in the ovary. The follicular cells surrounding this developing oocyte will secrete the estrogens, which is responsible of the secondary sexual characteristics and the thickening of the lining of the uterine. Ovulation happens around mid of the cycle, and following ovulation, the follicular cells will turn into the corpus luteum, and this structure secretes estrogen and progesterone. And actually, if there is fertilization and pregnancy is going to take place, the corpus luteum will start producing hormones until the placenta can take over. Okay, the previous slide, if you notice, it has a URL on the bottom part, okay? So that is a 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes video. It's about the menstrual cycle, okay? So if you can watch it on your own, so that you can have a better idea of this. As I mentioned, this is not going to be in the final exam, okay? Menopause, you all have heard about this. It's when the menstrual cycle stops because the ovaries have grown older and the follicles can no longer mature and the estrogens levels decline, okay? And the last one, mammary glands. Keep in mind that men and women have mammary glands, okay? Both have mammary glands, but females are the only ones who have functional. They're actually modified sweat glands. And they are, the main function is to produce milk when women are lactating. Okay, they're stimulated by the sex hormones, mostly estrogens, to increase in size. Okay, so this is the last one. Do you have any questions? I'm sorry, we have to run in the last part. Any questions or something that was not very clear? No? Okay, if you have questions or whatever, next week you can find me in my office, okay? Send me an email before dropping by, okay? All the best of luck to you. Please use the review questions as a guideline, okay? To know what you can study. Not everything is important, okay? Focus on the main ideas, the main things, the major functions and the anatomy. Okay, thank you very much. Then we will finish here.
So basically these are the main important ones.
Yes.
So will it be sufficient to just cover these things?
Yes, I guess so. Yes.
Or
The questions are not exactly the same. They're only a guide for you to study. Okay?
and how about the topic that we covered during the presentation? Should we cover it? The topic that we said.
Yes, because in many cases it's either the anatomy or the physiology of the topic.
So the possibilities that they will be included in the final exam.
Yes, follow the questions, I would say. If the person who made a presentation didn't dig too deep, or something was lacking, I'm not going to ask you about that. Okay, so the main ideas.
Can I have
Yes.
the extra digestive system?
Yes, I do. This is what I did. Another student was supposed to do physiology, but he didn't come. I think he just gave up. So,
Okay.
yes. So this is anatomy covered by the student, and I did a little bit of the physiology. Okay?
There is no minimum pages, right, for the optional assignment?
No minimum, only maximum.